Hello and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we usually go back and look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. However, today, in this crazy season in the lead up to the end of 2025, I'm putting out a special bonus episode for one of Netflix's original recent films from 2025. It's the comedy drama called J. Kelly. This one, it's directed by Noah Baumbach and stars George Clooney, Adam Sandler, Laura Dern, and Billy Crudup. I am Jesse, I'm your host. Thank you for joining me today for this special episode. As always, if this is a film that you haven't seen yet and you are interested in checking it out, give us a pause and come back a little bit later on, because I will spoil this film as we go and discuss this film. And obviously, we're in that festive season where if you haven't been following along, I've been putting out a couple of episodes a week in the lead up to Christmas as a special gift to our listeners. So hopefully you're enjoying listening to a few extra episodes in your feed the last few weeks. We do start our show with the Fast Flicks, where we do a quick little summary of what the film is all about. So this one is about a movie star who realizes he's made mistakes along the way and needs to work out who he is. Wow, super vague for me. Very, very vague, but that's okay, because we're going to jump into what this one, what Netflix have put as their log line for this one. So on Netflix, when you log into Netflix, it says, George Clooney gives the performance of a lifetime, in brackets, Vulture, as an iconic actor on a whirlwind journey of self-discovery with his entourage in tow. Good, I added in a little bit more. Yes, he takes his big crew around with him. And then the other little subline that Netflix give while you're watching is, movie star J. Kelly confronts his past and present on a journey through Europe with his devoted manager in this film from Oscar-nominated Noah Baumbach. So there we go. Some interesting little takes there from Netflix. This was made under the working title of Untitled Noah Baumbach Netflix Film. So there you go, not giving away too much. And around the world, the only other translation for the title around the world is Actor J. Kelly, and that's in Chinese. So other than that, around the world, this is called J. Kelly. We go back to December of 2023, where it was announced that Noah Baumbach had set up his project in his deal with Netflix, with George Clooney and Adam Sandler cast to star. Baumbach, he co-wrote the screenplay with Emily Mortimer. A lot of the cast was announced from March to April of 2024, with principal photography beginning in March of 2024 between New York City, London, and Tuscany. Swedish cinematographer Linus Sandgren shot the project on 35mm film, and this was his first collaboration with Baumbach. Filming concluded in May of 2024. Originally, I couldn't really fact check this too much, but apparently Brad Pitt was put in line to play the role that George Clooney plays of J. Kelly with Adam Sandler, and George Clooney replaced him just before production began. Apparently, George Clooney signed on to the project within 24 hours of receiving the screenplay. His only hesitation was the fact that Noah Baumbach prefers to shoot numerous takes with his actors, which Clooney thought wouldn't work for an actor of his age and style. Clooney said Noah famously does a lot of takes. I've already said spoilers, but there's those running through the field scenes. Clooney said, I did them 20 or 30 times. And I was like, what are you not getting that you need? Because I'm running 300 yards and I'm 64 years old. Movie stars are our avatars. They are people that we invest in and project onto and live through, Noah Baumbach told Vanity Fair. And a movie star needed to play the movie star. That was in the DNA of what this thing should be. What if a movie star was essentially playing one and reflecting back our own vulnerabilities and our own questions about life, he asked. What would that mean? I don't know that exactly, or that I knew it exactly, but it seemed interesting. So there we go. Baumbach also went on to say, the scene at the end of the movie when Jay's watching the reel, that is the first take of George watching his own tribute. And it was kind of amazing. Clooney was genuinely taken aback by the reel. He said, it threw me off a little bit because you're literally with an audience sharing 40 years of aging. In the film, there are a total of 75 speaking roles. Pretty wild. There's a lot of talk, a lot of chat, a lot of people in this film. And I guess to sort of say these things, there is a companion sort of making of J. Kelly on Netflix that they released. It's about 50 minutes of behind-the-scenes footage, which I watched after watching the film, and it's very good. It does talk through a lot of these things. And I think, to me, the things that stood out was the amazing set designs of Jay's house that they went to, and the physical sets and the transitioning from the real world into Jay's visions. There's a scene from an aeroplane or a private jet that goes into a theater, and a train on train tracks into a classroom, and even just the way that they created the moving train with the LED screens. Super cool, some good behind the scenes sort of stuff. I do have to say, though, Baumbach does look pretty full on to work with, and maybe that's why he's able to do what he does. And the other thing Netflix have put out, they put out a series of episodes on their podcast called Skip Intro with Krista Smith, and it interviews a lot of the cast's individual episodes. So there's one with Clooney, one with Laura Dern, etc. Really good listen if you're interested in hearing some further thoughts on the film. This was released at the Venice Film Festival on the 28th of August 2025, played a variety of other festivals before Netflix gave it a limited theatrical release around the world from the 14th of November 2025, and then it was dropped on Netflix worldwide on the 5th of December. As said before, this was filmed in a variety of locations. In London, I think it's key, like a lot of the shots in London were done at the Shepperton Studios, and if you watch that behind-the-scenes documentary, very, very cool how they transform some of these locations so far on the award circuit. And this was done before the Golden Globe nominations, which came through the other day. And I think this would add a nomination for Sandler and Clooney. But it's got 5 wins and a further 17 nominations across a variety of awards, including the Critics' Choice Awards. But in saying that, what are the critics and audiences saying about this film? On Rotten Tomatoes, the critics have it at 76%. That's on 176 reviews, so that is certified fresh. Audience even has it a little bit higher at 86%, and that's on more than 50 ratings. On IMDb, it's a little bit lower, 6.6 out of 10 on 7,700 ratings. Letterboxd, fairly high, 3.4 out of 5 on 43,500 ratings, and it's been logged by 52,000 people. And if we head over to Metacritic, where they do their traffic light system of red, yellow, and green, it has a 67 out of 100 for critics on 49 reviews. That is green. That is positive on the traffic light system. And the audience has it at a 4.7 out of 10 on 43 reviews. So that is yellow. So there we go. What are my early thoughts on this film? What do I think? I guess I've got to take into context. There's been a lot of hype around this film since it played at Venice. There's a lot of hype about this. This is Oscar bait. This is going to be one of the big awards contenders. And then it's sort of been a bit up and down since then, bit negative, some positivity again. Personally, I think it's a great film. I think it holds its ideas on its sleeve, and it's well performed throughout it. It's not the best film of the year, but it's worth a watch, definitely. It's a very good film. So let's talk about the characters in this film. Let's talk about Jay Kelly. Jay Kelly, this is the title of the film. This is the aging movie star played by George Clooney. He needs a Sharpie black texture pen to colour in his eyebrows. But he hasn't quite acknowledged that yet. He hasn't acknowledged that he's aging or that his career's heading towards the end. He doesn't want a tribute. He doesn't want a tribute show because he doesn't see his career as over. And this film slowly progresses that he's made his last film. This is him tying up some loose ends and trying to discover what he's missed out on in life by dedicating his career and everything to his work. Those that are around him do see him for what it is, though. Everyone has given up so much for his own success, and he barely recognizes this. And this frustrates a lot of people. And as the film progresses, people leave him until we're sort of left with Ron, who I'll talk about in a sec. But I think the key thing with Jay is that he hasn't been able to hold a stable relationship, especially with his own kids. And that's probably something that plays a big part in this film. So Ron is, you've got to say, Ron's played by Adam Sandler, and he's Jay's manager, who the same as Jay, struggles with prioritizing his own family, his children, and also Jay. Where do all of these stand? And it's almost impossible to do all of these things. And his wife is completely understanding, but she does blame their daughter's anxiety on him because he's never around. And there is a scene, a tennis match scene, where he literally ditches his family to go off and do exactly what Jay wants. At some stage over working for Jay for 30 years, I think the proximity and work meant that he got close to Liz, who is one of is Jay's publicist. And I guess that relationship, it was never meant to be because they're both happy with where they are now with their own families, but Liz sort of starts the ball rolling, and she's had enough of putting herself second to Jay and acknowledges, I've got to go back to my family and let Jay be. And Ron's almost at that stage. He can't quite shake Ron, especially when Ron's second biggest talent, played by what's his name? I can't remember. Not McConaughey. I can't even remember his name. I didn't write it down. Anyway, when his second biggest client, it's a play on Ben Affleck's name, but his second biggest talent ditches him, and that sort of brings things back to home for Ron too. The other big players in this film, Timothy Galligan. This is a very small supporting role from an old friend of Jay. They obviously went through acting school together, had a close relationship, and he comes back sort of out of nowhere to voice his grudge and hatred of what Jay took from him, I guess, and taking away his big break at stardom. This Timothy character was an expert at method acting, almost the complete opposite of what Jay was, and Timothy screwed up his big chance, but Jay was able to come in and swept in and took this role, which sort of allowed him to be successful. So Timothy, along with the other classmates that Jay shared, they're no longer acting, and Timothy's a child therapist, so they look and see what Jay's up to and what could have been, and Timothy's a little bit resentful for this, and sort of helps progress Jay's story of discovery, I would say. Jay's daughters. So Jessica is Jay's eldest daughter, who's struggled herself with the trauma of pretty much being left behind by Jay, her father, and never really having a relationship with him. She's trying to work her way through this. She's a teacher now. She's moved away to San Diego, so she's got space, and she does want to rekindle or discuss this trauma, and she does this by bringing Jay along to a counseling session, but at this stage in the film, he's too oblivious to understand the importance of it to her, and by the time he's ready to try and make things right, it's almost too late. And you've got to say that the other daughter, Daisy, she's the younger one, she's the more naive one, but she's that daughter who, she's leaving for the summer, she's going to Europe, and she doesn't, this upsets Jay because Jay expects to spend the summer with her and spend time with her, and this almost starts the decline for Jay as spending that summer with her, 2 weeks off, he was looking forward to doing that with her, so he almost stalks her across Europe, and I think the opposite, Daisy's almost the opposite of Jessica in that she has a bit more patience for Jay, but she also isn't going to let him railroad her life. She's going to stand her ground and say what she thinks, but not necessarily hold that against Jay too. The last little mentions I'll put in there are more characters that are there for Jay's development and his growth or his change. But Peter Schneider, Peter's this director who gave Jay his break back in the day, but passes away at the start of the film. And the funeral scene, this is where Jay rekindles with Timothy. But there's a flashback of Jay fobbing this Peter guy off. He's destitute almost and needs Jay's support just for his name, and Jay won't even give that to him. So there's a little bit of regret from Jay for fobbing him off only weeks prior. And finally, Mr. Kelly, Jay's father, a bit of an old school mentality, and probably by the sounds of it, wanted Jay, his son, to earn his money and career the hard way, labor, doing hands-on work, real work, not acting. And it's pretty clear he doesn't necessarily respect acting as a career choice. Jay's gifts aren't good enough for him, and I don't think anything Jay ever does would be good enough for his father. So that's a little bit of a sad little relationship there too. Comparisons to Baumbach's work. Noah Baumbach, the director, obviously 17 directing credits, a name that everyone knows for his work as a writer as well, working alongside his partner. The idea, I guess, is that this is his fourth Netflix production, which is a pretty wild thought to think about as well. The Meyerowitz Stories, which also starred Adam Sandler, Marriage Story with Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson, and White Noise, which we've actually done episodes on all of these films on this podcast. So if you're interested in listening to some takes on all of this, then please do have a listen to one of our episodes on that. But I think this guy knows what he's doing. He understands how to use the camera. He understands how to write a narrative, and I think it's very hit and miss whether you appreciate the story that he's telling on the screen too, because he touches on a lot of the similar sorts of themes too. Some scenes. Let's talk about some scenes. What did I like in this film? What didn't I necessarily like in this film? The opening scene was so frantic. It was this movie set, and the theme is obviously shown through the idea of time passing and everything that you thought you were isn't true. It's a nice little start. All in this, and this I saw this in the behind the scenes making of documentary on Netflix, but it was all done in one take. It was 9 pages of script that was put into 5 minutes of the film. And when you see the behind the scenes, just how visually stunning it actually looks in the actual film compared to the set they were working on, it's just wild. So I thought that was a really good introduction. There's a moment where Jay says that I think he's talking to Daisy near the pool, and Daisy's explaining she's going to Europe for the summer, and he's like, I'm going to be lonely, and his guard, I think his bodyguard or his support person, Silvano, just hands him a drink. Like, he's never lonely, and that's just a funny moment throughout the film. Jay and Timothy's drink conversation in this bar almost followed up with this car park fight. I thought that was super effective to get the ball rolling. David, Ron's son, I haven't seen much about him, but he doesn't have much, but hilarious. Like, this little kid, as mentioned before, there's a scene where Ron is playing a tennis match, and his son David sort of alongside the fence of the tennis on the gate, and Ron's like, don't put your mouth on the fence, and he's like, but I like the taste of it. I just thought that was hilarious. Jay's whole crew, they get to Paris, and it's literally for no reason, just to move on to Italy, because that's where Daisy's going. So just the things that all these people were doing for Ron, this was really highlighted through that. Jessica's therapist, bit of a weird cat. Interesting character. He reads this letter to Ron that Jessica wrote as her 10-year-old self, and talks about her babysitter making her watch a film with him in it, and she saw him on the screen as a great father and like he had a happy family. And I thought that was very heartbreaking and very, very impactful as to where she was at. And obviously Ron storms out of there as well, just proving that he didn't have the ability to deal with this. Jay sees Daisy on the train. He follows her across Europe, gets on a train with her in France, on the way to Italy, and she's just kissing this guy. And he comes over to her, and this guy's a film student, and she's just like, yeah, he's my dad. I thought that was really clever. Jay chases this bag thief. I'm not a big fan of that actual scene, but his guard again, Silvano, that guy, he falls over. And it was that was very humorous and very funny until it got a bit serious. But the idea then, the next scene that we see Silvano, he's on crutches. I just thought that was funny. Jay goes to this party, and there's this huge mural poster of him as he walks in, and Ron's there waiting for him, and he's just like, F me. Very, very funny. Mr. Kelly, Jay's dad, he drinks too much. He passes out. This is at that party, and he has to be seen by a doctor. And Jay walks in, freaking out a bit, and he sees red on his shirt. And he's like, "Is it blood?" And he's like, "No, it's bolognese sauce." Very good. And finally, Jay has a conversation with Jessica, as if she's in he goes for a run through the forest, and it's as if he's on the phone to her, but it's as if she's there with him, and saying that, you know, he was young when he left her, and he wanted something, and he wanted this career, and it meant he had to choose that over her. Just a very impactful scene. Very, very, very impactful. The only thing that I didn't necessarily like was the flashback, I guess, of that Daphne chick on set with Jay, having this affair with her, and the reason why Jessica and her mum left him. And I understand the importance of the scene, but it just felt a bit boring compared to the rest of the dreamlike flashbacks. I did laugh when she farted in bed on set, but I don't know, that one just took me out of the film a little bit. What's the film trying to say? Some themes, some ideas, some motifs. The quote at the start of the film in text on screen, and they show in the behind the scenes, they put this on glass to make it look really cool, but it's a hell of a responsibility to be yourself. It's much easier to be someone else or nobody at all. And that's from Sylvia Plath. And that's that idea of acting too. You are being someone else. You are lying almost that whole time because that's not your true self. And that ties in with the idea of celebrity and identity and personality and who we are, and the calculated and manufactured personalities that has to be put on at times, because if we're talking about actors, these are the people who have to sacrifice themselves to not be themselves, and then the people that are working with them to also sacrifice themselves to get others to where they want to be. So that whole idea, absent fathers, I've touched on this too, but chasing dreams instead of making those dreams with their own families, and sometimes loneliness, that loneliness that comes from that too. This was at the start of the film with on set Jay having his death moment in this opening shot, as well as the final shot at the end of the film of Jay watching his montage of his career. And it's that perfect moment, that can I have another one? That question, would you relive those moments over and over again? And confronting the choices you make and the legacies that you leave behind too. And obviously this is a film about film, so movies, they mention, are pieces of times and memories, and the idea of always running to or away from something. And the cheesecake is a big motif in this too. Like Jay, he has obviously asked for cheesecake at some stage, and he finally eats some at the end as well. What was good about this film? What did I take away? I think there's a lot of hype around the Sandman in this film. Adam Sandler, he is bloody good in this film. He plays the role so well. For what people would know him as that silly humor, he's excellent in this film. All right, let's finish off. Some questions, some pondering, some thoughts. The idea, Jay and Ron, are they actually friends, or is it just that 15% payment that keeps Ron there with him? I'm very intrigued with that question and that idea. The bloke at the pool party with Jay's dad, he wears this mask, this old bloke, he's like a waiter, and they're like, he's got infinite COVID. I just had to question myself, is that a real thing? And I can't help but think that would it have been a better film if Ron walked and left Jay by himself at the end? I know Clooney said that he wanted Baumbach to change it so Jay wasn't a complete tool in this film, but is this the change he made? Like, did Ron actually walk off on him at the end and he had to sit in that cinema by himself watching his montage of highlights? That would have been an interesting change. Anyway, we're ready to wrap this one up. We give the film a rating out of 5. So for me, these are the types of films that need to be made. Original stories, good cast, decent budget, and engaging. And I think this is a moment where I thank Netflix for existing. Otherwise, this film probably wouldn't have been made, to be honest. So I'm giving this a 4 out of 5. Solid from me. We're on socials. We've got Instagram, Facebook, and X, formerly known as Twitter. The question I wanted to ask was, will Jay change? At the end of this film, will he change? Will he go and spend time with his family and rebuild those connections? I'm intrigued. I'm not sure that really matters either anyway. Other than that, we are putting more episodes out in the lead up to Christmas. We do have a huge back catalogue of over 480 episodes covering Netflix original films. So if you can give us a search, give us a like, give us a follow, that would be amazing. Other than that, I will see you again in a couple of days or whenever it is for a couple of extra episodes in the lead up to Christmas this year.